the strongest objective in the game, the Triglav Protector.
Ooh, let's see if it's going to be Volskaya Foundry next, or we're going to a different battleground. It's different. Simplicity chooses Infernal Shrines, which means Gale Force Esports has opted for the first pick position at the beginning of this game.
Do you think many people out there agree with me that the Triglav is the strongest in the game right now?
I'm pretty sure the entirety of chat does, yes.
Oh, yeah. But we get Infernal Shrines, which does have a strong objective that definitely scales really well late game. You know, strategies that we've seen throughout EU in particular was get the early Punisher and then try and push another lane, things like that, kind of give it up, see the different rotations, things like that. So I think that's something that we might see maybe NA adapt to. We slowly started to see some of those. Some teams were just flat out ignoring the first one, but I think with some of the changes, the ammo changes, no side tower, which contributed a lot of damage towards the Punisher, things like that. And I think we'll see some slightly different approaches here on Infernal.
Yeah, even it happening later, again, it was one of those that was moved all the way to the 3-minute point. Sonya has been a really big mainstay, it seems, on this battleground already. Expecting to see her here. Maybe Leoric. We've seen, it was earlier in Europe when Leoric has been there too.
Yeah, you know, the other thing that we've seen is Hanzo a lot, right? And I think with Hanzo, the builds have been a little bit different than what I would have anticipated to see. And I think it's one of those things that once more regions start to see what's working for other teams, maybe we'll kind of see a little bit more of a bias, like a confirmational bias in sense of, okay, I've been running this, but I wasn't sure, now I see it. And now, yeah, this is pretty much it. I see everybody else run it. So there's some very different builds that we've seen so far.
Yeah, even in Europe earlier, I had heard about that it was either going to be an auto attack build or the scatter arrow build, but I hadn't really heard anything about the builds that, was it Team Liquid ran earlier? Now, aside from Dragon Strike, because Dragon Strike was part of that, but we had the Entomb plus Dragon Strike, which, by the way, man, people were giving me their ideas of the name of that wombo combo, and they were fantastic. I really liked the Dragon's Lair. But having the Stormbow build at level 4, being able to use that and have that exploding arrow that once it hit the monsters could do the extra damage, ended up allowing Nurok to get a Punisher after they had lost the initial shrine, and that just stopped all of the aggression that could have happened with that Punisher with the leftovers, having lost 2 of their members. So it was really cool to see that build. We'll see if we get a Hanzo in this game. Simplicity up 1-0 in this best of 5 as we head into draft number 2.
Boy, they did not like the ETC that came out from King Caffeine last game. I'm just going to take that off. And Genji being hovered right now, which obviously had a big impact last game. So maybe we will get to see the Hanzo. What, you don't like that one?
Eh. It was pretty good.
I know.
You say Biggie Genji, and it was good, that one fight, oh man. But also, still Beacon on Li Ming, it's blowing my mind.
He was the catalyst to that entire team fight when it did happen. Now, Genji here, I think we'll probably see, maybe this might be a Lucio. We've seen a high priority on Lucio. Obviously, Kaldor knows all about that. And there we go, there's the Lucio that we see, leaving the Hanzo open.
Hanzo for Simplicity. Do they want to get King Caffeine's Warrior now then? Do they feel like they need to get the support since there's a possibility for a support choke? Been some Stukov games on this map too because of the chokes for Lurking Arm. May be able to stop some of the aggression that comes in from Gale Force along with Lucio, speeding them in. Any other thoughts besides Hanzo at this point?
It's just, what does Zuna really think that can work for him on this battleground? They don't really see much on the other side for Lucio. You know, maybe we could be looking at another range style hero that he can try and carry on.
Greymane.
Greymane in particular. You know, we've seen teams play Chromie before on this battleground, especially against Lucios, who Lucio has good all-around sustain damage, but he also suffers from burst damage, and that's one of the things that Chromie does so well. So there's a lot of potential, I think, whether that gets prioritized, but we end up getting both.
Hanzo and Greymane. Still a lot of options for Shrine Clear, but Greymane does give a lot of that to Simplicity and Hanzo too. So Gale Force will need to keep that in mind. Gul'dan? Did we mention Gul'dan yet?
No, and that's pretty much what I had my eye
Yeah.
on, with big impact on what he likes to play, and this is one that has great clear. You know, in one of the drafts earlier in EU, they started out with a Johanna pick. They had a Rhaegar, I believe, mixed in there. You could see their priority was to try and clear the shrine, but then Gul'dan got picked up on the other side. It's like, yeah, but I'm still Gul'dan, and he was able to clear it quite quickly. So it's definitely something. I don't know if I like it before the second ban, though, because generally you can, I mean, with the damage already being picked up, though,
Yeah.
it gives you a little bit more freedom, I guess, to be flexible in what you think can counter that and kind of deal with the warriors in your own counter with the last few picks.
I would really like to see Arthas again for Fury. It's, as I said last draft, a Fury Classic. It's going to be really good versus the Greymane, and he gets a lot of benefit from Lucio. But Johanna does too. Johanna gives a lot of wave clear. She can group up people for a better effect off of Tormented Souls, lock them down with Blessed Shield too, and the difficulties that sometimes arise in trying to engage with her, Lucio can help her with that with some speed boosting along the way.
Now with Simplicity, one of King Caffeine's better heroes last year statistically was the Diablo. And we've seen Diablo on this battleground in the past, has a lot of good pressure that he can put on, but going up against the Johanna, a little bit different. He also did kind of well on Stitches, and if you talk about Condemn having a mini stun, there's a talent called Fleabag at 13, which gives Stitches a lot more survivability, a lot more strength, because it gives him the cooldowns on his abilities by going that talent when he's stunned. And Condemn, since it's a mini stun, it's really easy to proc.
Yeah, but both of those do have high health pools, and Malthael might be a deterrent from that because of his % damage. This just remains to be seen. Simplicity don't want to deal with the double poison possibilities of having Malthael and Gul'dan together on Gale Force's side.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
I don't blame him a bit. Now, when you're on the other side of Gale Force, you think about King Caffeine, you think about, can we do something? Arthas, of course, is going to be there. Diablo, and of course Stitches, I think, are going to be there. But, oh, by the way, there's also Muradin. I don't necessarily like Muradin as much on this battleground, but when we talk about King Caffeine, it's almost hard not to say Muradin.
Yeah, he played a lot of Muradin last year, didn't he?
A lot. More than twice as much as the next most. He played over 30 games.
Okay.
More than twice as much as the next most, which just happens to be his teammate, Urho, who had about 15. So
you're saying Simplicity likes Muradin?
A little bit, a little bit. So the only other person that was even close to that was Equinox last year, and now that was earlier in the last year, but now he's back on the tank role. So we'll see that, you know, throughout the weekend. But Simplicity here. Next match.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
Depends if he wants to pick him. Or if we've got, there was a time when Equinox was also playing some Diablo 2. Man, I would love for the Lord of Terror to be back.
It could happen. It could happen right now.
Let us see. What support do we get K1 Pro on? That's just such a it's just such a treat to see K1 Pro playing support. I know a lot of people might think, but it's K1 Pro, it's the K1 Pro. He makes so many plays, but I feel like his playmaking ability is going to show us just how much he's loving this role right now. And I hope he's really enjoying it, because he can make some plays, especially when he plays Alexstrasza.
I like the fact that this is now 2 games in a row where they save that support pick for the very end. That shows that he's comfortable playing whatever is necessary. Sometimes you'll see different teams, they'll prioritize. I mean, you look back at some of the best teams that we've had, like KSV Black, when they were back at BlizzCon, Tempest, things like that. There was a lot of priority on supports before the second ban in a lot of their drafts. But when you have teams that are comfortable and have the flexibility, of course we have a deeper support pool right about now, but it kind of gives you that option. I mean, Stukov, I think, is available here when you talk about Johanna. You can't use Iron Skin when you're silenced. Dealing with Malthael on that front line could be pretty effective.
I believe it will be Stukov.
Whoa!
Okay. Wait a second.
Okay.
That's a Michael Udall Kerrigan. Do you know how long it has been?
It's been a while, but I really want the Stukov now. Really want the Stukov now. I don't know if he necessarily has the same type of support. I almost wondered if the Leoric would be a Tyrael from Urho, kind of give you that AoE sanctification to deal with the Tormented Souls.
Yeah, something's got to help with Malthael.
Yeah, with Malthael being there, obviously Stukov maybe not as good as what we might see. We might end up just seeing Alexstrasza again, but with Kerrigan on the other side, obviously that's a much different story.
Flailing Swipe could help, though.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
If you can just, okay, you're coming in, I mean, For all we know, we might see Falling Sword in there, which I doubt it, but you have that aggression of Malthael and Kerrigan. You just kind of knock them away and hit the reset button.
Really cool, though, that Gale Force made sure to prioritize Lucio. It obviously makes sense Lucio's just that high in the meta right now, but then making sure that they had him already does put Simplicity in a weird spot after the Malthael was picked, because Lucio is seen as that big counter, because his shield isn't affected by Touch of Death, the heal reduction that Malthael gets at 7. He can still drop the shield down and try to help his team get through that Tormented Souls. Because now, circles of death just abound on Gale Force's side. Man, they've got Kerrigan with Maelstrom, you've got Malthael too. Tychus goes into Odin, he's dropping bombs on everybody. Can Stukov help this double warrior, Hanzo Greymane, survive?
I mean, there's a lot of circles of death, but there's somebody on the other side that's a master of geometry.
That's true.
Hanzo. We'll see. I think that there's a lot of good counterplays there when we talk about Hanzo being there. Of course, Greymane just a stalwart. Having Leoric the potential into maybe a flailing swipe into an Entomb. Knock away a few others, kind of like you would see a Gust, right? You put the Entomb down, knock away a few, isolate one, get the blow up. There's a lot of potential to go off here. The Stukov, of course, dropping the Lurking Arm is going to be the main thing. That's why I really like the Stukov there. The aggression that you're going to have of a Malthael, of a Kerrigan, and of a Johanna. When all three of those are silenced, they are not good heroes. And that is going to be something when we talk about the choke points of Infernal Shrines being really effective.
How big of a threat is it for Stukov at this point? Do you think that he's going to be the target for that kind of dive in from Malthael and Kerrigan?
He's a melee support.
Yes.
Who probably doesn't want to be in a lot of melee.
No, he's going to need to maybe even take his ranged attacks at 1, because that's going to be pretty terrifying. Let's get into it. Game 2, Simplicity leading 1-0.
1-0 for Simplicity, as Hosty will be on Hanzo this time. Zuna again on the Greymane, as we talked about. K1 Pro on the Stukov, Muradin, King Caffeine, of course, and Urho rounding it out on Leoric.
Over in the red once again, it's Big Impact. He is going to be playing at Tychus. We've got Michael Udall on his Kerrigan. That is a treat. Ladies and gentlemen, B-Kid will be playing Malthael. He's been playing quite a lot of that in that role. Fury will be playing Johanna. That's an old standard too. We talked about Michael Udall, but he also has that. Finally, Akaface playing Lucio.
Everything here will be pretty much scouting for vision. We already see Leoric split to the top, Greymane and Stukov down to the bottom. They want nothing of that early 5-on-5 skirmish that we generally traditionally see. And Zuna not afraid to go in, know that he's got his own disengage there. Michael Udall not able to get in range to land that. Take a little bit of damage on the way up.
Well, it's interesting to see that 2-1-2, because in general we saw a lot more of that when you have a double support, because then you could have a support on each side with the 2, have the tank in the middle who can rotate around where he is needed. Nice combo in. First Blood takes out Greymane.
Oh, did we get a little B? Oh!
Woo!
Hit him with the B step and the spray there. I think Zuna probably overplayed his hand. He went one way, should have gone the other.
Now I want to ask you, because I feel like it just went through the draft, and you and I had expected this, but maybe didn't give it its proper due. Tychus, is he back?
You know, there was the buff a little while ago to his auto attack, and that was it. I think it got buffed baseline from 44 to 48. But it's enough to kind of keep him in. And this was always a battleground that he could excel in. Getting that grenade, it's really good at clearing the skeletal defenders on the objective. And that's what he did. And it also disrupted a lot on the front line. We see Double Warrior on the other side, and Muradin, high health pull, Leoric there. So we'll likely see the bigger they are, but we could see in the rhythm at level 4, which we'll find out here in a moment. There's a collapse onto Hosty. Biggie, though, that is the upgraded tower damage, Gilly. Is he willing to die for this?
Plus a mace took him down. So 1-for-1 kill as Erho now takes the damage from that Reaper's Mark. And with Biggie Wraith striking into position, takes down Erho. Trading out 1-for-1 in the top, but of course, Gale Force are winning in the kills. They also got the earlier camp, which we saw Zuna just step back, making sure that nobody was heading straight over to him to steal that camp. He was there by himself. He was starting to take some damage. But Gale Force had different plans, going for the gank, the pick, and they were rewarded with it.
So far, so good. Just 30 seconds away from our first shrine, which will be top lane. camps, of course, were picked up mid. Nobody necessarily rotating down, but we've got an invade. This is the simplicity that I like to see, Gilly. The aggressive kind, the Zuna style that they like to play. Urho trying to do a little bit of zoning, getting body blocked, but they stole that camp. That's exactly what they were looking for.
They get the camp, but they may lose their Leoric. Urho finally conceding, just walks away. Does do a number on Michael Udall before he dies. And it does take some time away from Gale Force clearing that camp right at the shrine being able to be activated. All of Simplicity heading down. They had the camp in the mid too, so looking like they are okay and losing Urho just to give up that first Punisher and try to get some structural damage done on the opposite side of the battleground.
There's a handful of heroes you would feel comfortable doing this on, and one of those is Greymane, because when he has that inner beast up, when he's in Worgen form, his damage is almost second to none. You can see him just ripping through those structures, making it real easy to get value here in the bottom lane.
Jayhel, this isn't the standard Kerrigan build that we generally see on Infernal Shrines. We're looking at block and then Fury of the Swarm. She gets that splash damage off of the basic attacks, but generally, we're going to have to hold that thought as Gale Force is getting down in time to defend their fort. But yeah, it's not the general build that we see, the Ravage build.
After the changes to that, I think it was fall of last year, it kind of fell off a little bit. And then, of course, Psalm, by the way, at BlizzCon came out busting out this build. And we remember those legendary games on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Really kind of opened people's eyes. You know, obviously the change was already in place, but I think that just kind of solidified it for other players as well. And no surprise that it gives you a little bit more of that offense-centric while also having that block at level 1 to survive a little bit better, especially against the likes of the Greymane.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see that it would still not, the Ravage build would still not be played even on this battleground, given that you could just eat through all of the Skeletal Defenders so fast, get the shield along the way, but it seems like Michael Udall still didn't really have much of a problem of claiming that shrine. We'll see if that's the case when Simplicity are willing to fight for it.
And you look at the trade. Bot lane, Greymane took an entire wall with his team. Top lane, this Punisher gets one. This is something that I think a lot of teams will continue to do, is to kind of ignore that one. And if you have the right composition, just go push that opposite lane, especially when it's top-bottom. Makes it a little bit easier to do that. So we have a pretty even game when we look at experience and the race towards 10.
Looking at the Tychus build too, Regen Globes as the choice instead of the auto attack range. That's been there sometimes, and then the bigger they are, that's your favorite talent, right?
Depends on how hard I'm memeing, because if so, then I'm going in the rhythm, because you can stack that all day.
Level 9 here, and Gale Force Esports looking to invade the Cosra camp after getting their own, knowing that that is up there, and seeing now that top has been picked up by Greymane. They're very confident knowing that they're able to get both of those camps. See if they push along with that. Looks like they want to try to push with this, get some damage on the towers, try to get the 10 faster.
Good call. And the Lurking Arm, of course, makes it really hard to step into that, and one auto attack away on that tower. Gale Force showing a penchant right now for leaving structures with about 1 HP.
And they already rotated clear to the top lane to clear out that mercenary camp, so there was no free damage done thanks to, or because of the shaman. But in a rotation back down, they always can try to throw out a grenade or something. Now they found Urho, who again is finding himself caught by a lot of the members of Gale Force, just constantly watching to see where he can rotate to that solo lane and punishing him for it.
I mean, you've got to get trait value at some point. So, I mean, you might as well use it there. I don't know. He's very aggressive, and this is something that when I remember he was playing Muradin back in the old Naventic days when I talked about that, he would, and this was the old Muradin that, you know, had the unstoppable and dwarf toss, but he would be in places you're like, look, you shouldn't be there. And that's pretty much what he would do, and he'd get caught out from time to time, but it would always work out most of the time in the end. No surprise, he's got a similar hero here in Leoric who's like, I also got an unstoppable when I press this, so it gives him that availability to kind of run out, run in. He just seems to be biting off a little bit more than he can chew a couple times. It'll be a little bit easier post-13, though. Gale
Force has been making some really fluid, pretty nice rotations, though. Going out, being able to get the double camp in the mid, going up, knowing that it was likely that Urho was going to get back into the solo lane, too, and trying to catch him there, making sure that there's nothing done for free against their structures by Simplicity. How do you feel about Simplicity's rotation so far? Does it just feel like they're more responsive, waiting until they have heroic abilities?
They definitely look like they're looking for their moments, the same way that they invaded that top. You know, they understood that they wanted to get value by stealing that. They understood the rotations of Gale Force, saw a few things on the minimap, invaded, came right back out, were very decisive on the way that they pathed, the way that they moved to the bot lane, and showed and got structure value. So it seems like they're picking and choosing their opportunities instead of just that bull rush approach of, I'm going in and looking for a team fight anywhere. It looks like a very cognizant effort on what they're trying to do, and I like what I'm seeing so far.
Now, we've already been able to see Hanzo this game. Alex Straza was in the last game. We've been waiting to see when these new heroes are going to come in a lot more. Looks like we're actually back into the game. I wanted to ask you if you thought we'd get to see much Blaze next week, but we'll hold that conversation for now.
I'm looking forward to that one. I want to see what the pros will do, but again, we will see next week. B-Kid getting on to King Caffeine, who will throw out a hammer. B-Kid eats it in the face there, his mouth ill. Gale, next shrine will be mid. This is, again, where teams want to try and push, try and get the value out of the second one. We talked about the staggered now, the way that these come in. The objective is a little bit later. So the second one actually is a bit later, which has a bit more impact. So these teams have a very different approach, I think, than what we're traditionally going to see.
Earlier camps for Simplicity does give Gale Force the opportunity to have a camp pushing during that as they're getting their shaman. Do they hold it all? No, they're just going to go ahead and pick that up. They were pushing out that top lane quite a bit, while Simplicity took out the 4 in the bottom and even pushed beyond that, just forcing somebody to come down to respond to them. Otherwise, going to start putting some damage on those keep towers. And you really don't want to allow to do that because those are so necessary in being able to help defend versus the Punisher that's barreling against you, especially now, like you said, that you don't have that standalone tower to help with that.
Just about 15 seconds away from our next one. Neither team too close to 13, so we'll likely have another fight here. I just want to know who's going to be the aggressor. Is it going to be the likes of Kerrigan, Mouthill, and Johanna? Or will we see something like Murd and ETC kind of go in, try and get that value out of an Entomb, and then Hanzo coming in with that big arrow behind it and locking people down, and Zuna following up?
Yeah, there are a lot of ways, even though they aren't maybe the standard ways you would think of being able to peel back and back and back. There's no gust, but there's the flailing swipe, there is a sideways entomb, and even the dragon arrow, if Gale Force are all funneling from one direction with those circles of death. 12, 13 skeletal defenders to just a few of Simplicity, though they're starting to catch up. Neither team pulling the trigger yet. But if Simplicity don't want to face Gale Force when they're 13, they're going to want to do that pretty soon.
That lurking arm from K1 Pro there. Fury was rotating up, giving the protection to his team. Instead, he was zoned out. Ate quite a bit of damage. Good play there by K1 Pro, just recognizing that. However, they are losing the race. Simplicity, there it goes. Now we've got our fight, Gilly.
Entomb, Odin, Maelstrom, and Tormented Souls all at once. It's King Caffeine who's the first to fall, and with the sound barrier behind it, things are going from bad to worse for Simplicity. Zuna receives a heal just as K1 Pro gets booped back into oblivion, and he falls. Great combo over the wall on Hosty, but he's got his jump, and he is A-okay. The Punisher picked up by Gale Force Esports as they get 13. And with 2 kills, they'll be able to take out this fort easily.
They've got that one. Michael Udall, give me some more Kerrigan. But this is going to be the mid fort going down. A couple members of Simplicity went down as well, and now Gale Force, similar position to what we saw in the previous game, stretch the lead a little bit, but can they take that next step to get even more? Can they be more aggressive, get another pick here, and then try and take control of this game?
Yeah, they took that sidewall down just in case anybody was trying to bait over too close to the gate, but Simplicity played that safely, so all they'll lose in the end is the fort and the wall in front. Gale Force now full level lead as they move and try to paint the map as red as they can. They go for a switch in how they approach the mid-Khazra camps, just stealing away as they back off, and then they can make a decision from there what they want to do. It looks like try to push in the bottom, eliminate this last fort, and set themselves up really nicely for what could be next shrine potentially in the bottom.
This is what I was saying before, and it's what I want to say now, is that Gale Force's decision-making is different. It's better. And they're making these opportunities to getting that tower, Gilly, is a little bit of experience. It's a little bit more experience to get to 16. It opens up the map. We see the best teams in the world that will always do something immediately after. When they get a little bit of a lead, they don't let up. Now it's up to Gale Force to continue to paint that picture, and they have to finish it. They can't come up short in these games. They get the structure advantage, they get the XP, but it's a matter of what are they going to do next with it. And I think that's a big question Gale Force is going to have to answer, but right now it's looking good.
Yeah, that's an excellent point that you bring up, is the fact that when you watch a team like MVP Black, when they play in Infernal Shrines, which is one of their favorites, anytime they finish pushing with a Punisher, wherever they rotate is maybe through another fort, and they'll just do half damage, quarter damage, whatever they can get done, because they know that only furthers them along in one of the next phases, because it's likely that it could go there. So it's brilliant to see, and it's great to see from Gale Force Esports that they're keeping with that aggression. They see a Hosty too, speaking of aggression.
Oh, the Bless Shield's gonna land, and that should be enough to confirm the kill. You saw the vision go out, not in time, in Gale Force. What can you do for me next? Oh, they've got an answer. They've got themselves 16, Gilly. They got themselves a kill. They're going to move in here. They don't have minions, but Fury is tanking that. They made sure that he got in first. I think Simplicity is more than okay with trying to take this fight, though.
Yeah, Iron Skin was used at the beginning of that. Perfect route from K1 Pro, and the follow-up Entomb forces Akaface to use that sound barrier. The silence still there. Kerrigan is just stuck in the Entomb, and she will fall, though. Greymane still goes down to Gale Force Esports, is attempting to turn this flailing swipe, pushes them back for now, and King Caffeine continuing to go down. Dwarf tosses away just barely, but the teleport back in. Avatar, he's still living.
Oh my goodness, B-Kid is doing everything he can. King Caffeine barely able to live there, but you've got to give credit to B-Kid coming in there, the cleanse that was on him, but the Avatar was able to keep Muradin alive. They didn't get the kill. They did get a couple in there, but it forced out a lot of heroics, and I think that that's a definite win for Gale Force. However, Simplicity now close to 16. We've got ourselves another shrine in 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's going to be up in the top. Both of the teams have been putting just so much focus in the brawl back and forth. Gale Force didn't end up bringing down the fort, so Simplicity at least kept their fort alive. They haven't taken really very much keep damage. That mid is the only problem, in that the gate went down and it took some. And they made it to 16. Now Muradin gets a lot tankier. They have the ability for a lot more of the Ominous Wraith damage reduction, which should be helpful, really helpful with what Gale Force has in their composition.
Here we go, the Unstoppable put in just in time, but not going to be enough for Lucio gets blown up. However, K1 Pro on the backside is being attacked by Udall. We've got a 2-for-1 trade so far. Can Udall make another play happen? Because this is a bad spot for Gale Force with no support.
Zuna goes back out, has all of the damage from his cocktails, goes back in again and trying to bring down Michael Udall, who jumps away from the team using the defenders. He has a little bit of that assimilation shielding, dives back in, brings down Zuna, but faces death himself, trading out 3 for 3. As Caff, again with the last second Avatar, keeps himself alive, but it seems like he'll be chased down this time. Maybe.
There we go. Get him, B-Kid. He's like, look, you got away once. You're not getting away from the Reaper a second time. You can only cheat death so much, Gilly.
No one can stop death. That's what B-Kid proves here. The Shrine kind of got ignored. The team's just ready to brawl in that last fight, but man, it was a doozy of a fight.
I love it. And in the fact that Zuna was so aggressive, Udall making the play, making sure he gets the reset on his Q, one of the mechanics of Kerrigan. Jump down to the left, jump down to a minion, got it again. Zuna showed the minute he came out of fog, that's the only play Udall could make. He made the right play trading out there. I just love the fact that these teams are throwing down back and forth.
But Zuna also recognized that Gale Force has been able to keep these squishy assassins, the double melee assassin, alive thanks to Sound Barrier. And he assassinated Lucio so fast. As Leoric goes down, but he took out Lucio so fast within that Entomb, that air host setup. Simplicity showing that they've come to play. They've come to bring it to Gale Force.
Snap judgment right here. Gale Force getting a Shaman camp. They recognize they have 36 out of 40. This is a given Punisher for them. Might as well see if you can amplify that push. Get the camp to push behind that Punisher. They'll clear that up here in just a moment. Push that top lane. Maybe they can get a keep out of this.
Nice Iron Skin from Fury. Dodges the Stormbolt. Still no pickup on the Shrine. Gale Force going to clear out the opponent's Shamans, so that they do have that stronger push you were referencing. Meanwhile, Simplicity gets some camps elsewhere. This will provide some split push potential. Maybe try to force back some of Gale Force to deal with. while this Punisher is going. Gale Force are well on their way to 20. It looks like they still are willing and okay to go ahead and pick up this shrine since that top push is so good for them.
The thing that's scary right now for Simplicity is that if Gale Force gets 20 in the middle of this, it might be more than keep. However, Gale Force opting to clear up the middle while the Punisher's still pushing. They'll rotate over. Johanna stayed middle, soak that experience. Now they'll get 20 off of this next wave and that tower. That will give them 20. They might be able to end here. Not baiting the Punisher over the wall is a big deal.
Yeah, that is going to be problematic for Simplicity for sure, as the wall goes down before the Punisher has really sustained any damage at all. Here goes the Odin down, getting the incredible sieging off of that. Now that he has big red button, there's the double jump. Airho comes in, trying to reduce that damage. This is a really tough spot to be in, J-How, for Simplicity.
Yeah, 50% left on that as the keep starts to fall. They're going to look to try and get a pick, see if the Punisher can help there. The damage coming out, Udall directly on Urho. He's looking for the jump over. They did get the bait on the Punisher to the mid keep. They've got their eyes focused on taking down a structure. Gale Force not sure what they want. But there comes the Dragon Arrow, and Zuna going in, sound barrier in response.
Now they had the silence, and that did force back a lot of Gale Force Esports out of that. But in the end, B-Kid once again finds a dwarf and takes him out as they bring down Murden. King Caffeine did an admirable job zoning up in the front of that. Waited a long time to use Avatar. He was constantly the one trying to bring over the bait, and it made it really difficult for Gale Force Esports to get much done further than the keep. The keep was knowingly going to be lost, but they can't lose anybody else here. There's Flailing Swipe. Ooh, that might have been the end after Simplicity did such a good job making sure they didn't lose the game there.
There was a play as the Entomb went down. Udall used his blink on Kerrigan. It was subtle, but it was nice. He is on fire right now. I would have liked to see him maybe be a little bit more aggressive on a couple of those, see if they can end the game, because now, Gilly, we're right back to where we were before in Cursed Hollow, in that Simplicity will be 20 by the time the next objective comes in. The advantage that they do have, however, is the Punisher, the Shrine, is going to be bot lane while they have catapults pushing top, which gives you an inherent advantage.
Yeah, that's something that Simplicity needs to be getting ready for. They already have Leoric in the top lane doing what he can to push that lane out. Also considering their mercenary camps in the top lane too. But for now, the goal, plain and simple, needs to be 20 for Simplicity, and then they can worry about trying to make sure that they have that top lane pushed out. Very important, though, that Airho, he has been the target for a lot of Gale Force Esports ganks. And having Malthael, having Tychus, who can bring him down so fast with the bigger they are, they need to be making sure that they don't lose him at a really pivotal time for Gale Force to get that shrine or to be able to snowball kills from there.
What do you think the odds are that Udall's like, he's calculating in his mind. He's sitting there. He's like, maybe somebody's going to be in this bush. I mean, the odds have got to be low, but if he lands that, it's a sick play.
How good would that feel, though, you know?
Hello, Leoric. They're coming for him.
Oh. And he just backed.
Yeah.
It's good for
call.
Gale Force, though. Like, that's great to keep the pressure on in that top lane, knowing, again, that the bottom shrine is where it's going to spawn. There's mercenary pressure everywhere. This does push the lanes up, so finally Simplicity get 20, and that is a big spike for them. They've got the double silence now, buried alive. That is going to be a lot of silences.
If Lucio gets caught in that, it's
lights out.
It's lights out. It's pretty significant, and we have both shrines, or excuse me, both camps top. We talked about the catapults pushing top lane. I wonder if Gale Force is willing to try and commit to a soft push to keep that lane pushed out, to put Simplicity on a clock while that bottom shrine is in play.
We shall see. Simplicity doing all they can to clear out the catapults, get those going. Gale Force has a lot going for them in this setup too. Even the vision that mercenary camp provides. Seeing now that Simplicity are starting the rotation to the shrine. Gale Force are just ready to try to end the game off of this if they can. They get the better setup, trying to get as many skeletal defenders from this before Simplicity can show up for the ball game.
Here we go, Urho on that backside. There's the root. He gets absolutely annihilated. But Gilly, that is Malthael. Guess what? He can cheat death.
Yeah, Malthael has returned already, but he does have to run back to the shrine. This gives some time for Simplicity. And Gale Force did not have that big of a lead in skeletal defenders. Simplicity have caught up. It's just down to the poke. Mike setting up, getting into position as B-Kid gets back. Airho may be the target as he gets the Reaper's Mark on him. He is brought down quickly as the combo pulls into the damage of Tychus, and Stukov is gone. Zuno will follow. King Caffeine is in danger. Gale Force Esports have gotten 3 kills so far. They want the 4th.
They've got it. All they got to do at this point, I don't even know if they need the Punisher. I feel like they could probably just walk to core with the camp and the catapults top lane. Look, they showed the damage numbers just a few minutes ago, and that's all in dandy and fine. You know, Udall doesn't have the highest numbers, as King Caffeine's just going to get deleted here. Didn't have the highest numbers. It's not about it. Kerrigan's kind of like an Illidan style. Yeah, you can top numbers occasionally, but it's a matter of like, are you making plays? And in the middle of that, the synergy that we talked about, he landed the combo, and then the big red button came down right on top of it. The synergy of this team, looking for that kill, getting that reset on that fight was just phenomenal. Gale Force even it up here 1-1.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Even the setup losing Malthael early, but understanding that they just needed to play safely. It was sort of a risk, the positioning that Mike was in, but it was a calculated risk. Now they have sound barrier. Everything is coming up bases for Gale Force Esports in this game. They tie up the series as we head into Game 3.
I'm impressed. Even in their loss in Game 1, Gale Force showed major progress in terms of the team that they want to be. They stumbled a little bit in a late game team fight, but against a team like Simplicity, you had mentioned it before about how this is a team that can come out of nowhere. They could 3-0 you or they could 0-3, kind of like the old Lag Force style, but this is a better team, I think, than what we saw from them. They just have the potential, so does Gale Force. And when we talk about all the tools that it takes to make a team good, maybe even great, a little early on that so far, Gale Force, I like what I see.
Both of them have been showing a lot of aggression, which is what I'm enjoying. Not only in the very scrappy team fights that we get over the shrines, where everyone's just like, abandon all hope from the shrines, we just need to try to kill each other. But even in the mercenary camp invades that both teams have been exhibiting, knowing when they need to be getting aggressive at those points and trying to either get back into the game or just try to make sure that they're keeping a lot of pressure going. I think that was the most phenomenal thing for me for Gale Force, is how much pressure Airho was under and just how much pressure the lanes were under.
It's been a treat to watch Gale Force so far. It is still only tied 1-1, and we've got a best of 5, so still plenty of action to come, and I want to see, can Gale Force continue, or will Simplicity make a statement in our first series of HGC 2018? So far, we've got ourselves a good one.
We have. We will continue that action after this commercial break. Stay tuned.